Thank you, Cara. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Alejandro Medina, and I'm here today to introduce you to our new virtual training from Nature Research Academies and Nature Masterclasses. We have always believed that by giving researchers a great training, we help them make wonderful discoveries. No one writes a great scientific paper overnight, but the time a scientist or a team of researchers submit the paper to Nature or all the publications, years of learning and research will have gone into it. And that's why we're here um, to help. Over the last few months, and due to the challenging times with the pandemic, we have been working hard to ensure that we can still deliver our leading academies, but this time via webinar instead of in person. We have delivered more than 25 training webinars so far across a variety of disciplines, reaching 700 researchers across 7 countries. Our live webinars keep the same interactivity and high quality standards as we are known for here in Nature Research. So they are delivered by experts in their fields and include interactive activities that prompt scientific discussion and debate, polls, and Q&A sessions for multiple topics from scientific writing to publishing and more. And in the next slide, I will leave you a few stories, success stories from training webinars we have done in the past, hoping to give you a better idea of what we do here in Nature Research Academies and Masterclasses, and the care that we put on our workshops and training. Thank you so much for your attention. That was mainly what I wanted to say and introduce to you guys. If you have any questions or inquiries, please in the chat box, and one of our sales representatives will get back to you with more information and maybe to prompt up a private conversation. Without delay, I would like to invite Jeffrey to tell you all about the test session. Jeffrey, enjoy.
Thank you very much, Ali. So firstly, I would like to welcome all of you to the taster session for the Nature Research Academies. Now, when I was asked to deliver this taster session, I was told I had to restrict the amount of content that I was going to deliver in about 10 minutes. Therefore, I chose to discuss titles, being the shortest part of the entire manuscript, that would allow us to go through the information to give you an idea of how we present the information via our webinars, give you an idea in terms of how we want to communicate the information to the attendees, and also give you an opportunity to see how we do the interaction in terms of polls and Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and begin the short taster session on writing impactful titles. Now, writing an impactful title is necessary for an author. An author, as Ali had mentioned, has put a lot of time and effort into their research, and now they want to ensure that everybody recognizes their accomplishments. And why is this going to be such an important thing for the author to be mindful of? Well, when people search for articles, they do so by going to online databases. For example, here's the Dimensions, which is a database that aggregates published literature. Now for this one, I've restricted the search to van der Waals heterostructures, and I limited to the last 5 years. Yet still we can see there's over 2,600 articles related to this topic published in the last 5 years. From a reader's perspective, it is a challenge. Which one of these articles is most relevant for them to download and to read in full? So this is where the author really needs to write an impactful title, because when you have so much competition out there, it is essential to stand out. When the reader's going through all of these titles that they see on that website, you want them to stop at your title and say, this is the paper that I'm looking for, increasing the likelihood they'll click on it, read the abstract, and hopefully download the article as well. So in this taster session, we're going to discuss a successful strategy to write an impactful title for all of you. Firstly, there's some important points to keep in mind. First, it needs to state what is your key accomplishment. What were you able to achieve in your study? That is what your readers are looking for. Secondly, it needs to contain keywords, because when a reader's looking down at a list of all of these titles, those keywords is really what's going to stand out and get their attention. Third, keep your title short. If you have a title that's maybe 4 lines long, nobody's going to read it. They may read some of it, but certainly not the whole title. When you keep your title short, we'd recommend 10 to 12 words is a good length. You're increasing the likelihood that people will read the entire title. And if they read the entire title, they will clearly understand what you have been able to accomplish in your study. And that's how you communicate its significance. But there are also some important things to avoid as well. Firstly, don't use questions. Authors often think that it's clever to put a question in their title. Sadly, clever titles are only clever to the author. They're usually confusing to everybody else. Instead, tell the reader what they're looking for, the answer to their question, which is what is important about your study. Secondly, don't be too vague. Sometimes I see titles that say a characterization of, an investigation of, an evaluation of. Yes, we know you did research. You're publishing a research article. That's obvious you investigated something. We want to know what was being investigated. That is the specific information the readers are looking for. Third, you have to be careful with abbreviations and acronyms, especially when you want to publish in a broad focus journal. So when you publish in a broad focus journal, it suggests that you feel your research is useful to people with other areas of subject expertise outside of your own. But if you are using abbreviations that are only known amongst people with your area of subject expertise, other readers won't understand the abbreviation. And if they don't understand the abbreviation, they won't understand the title. Now, if you're going to submit to a specialized journal where most of the readers will likely have the same subject expertise as you, using commonly used abbreviations, acronyms is likely going to be okay. But for broad focus journals, you need to write it out in full. Lastly, don't use words like new and novel. Yes, we know your research is new. Journals do not publish old research. Editors are looking for originality and novelty. So by default, all research is new. These words are simply unnecessary, making the title longer than it needs to be. Keep your title short. Now, although we often emphasize this is what you should include and this is what you should avoid, authors sometimes say, okay, Jeff, I understand what you're saying. However, this is not always easy to do. Writing a title is a challenge. When I hear this, that usually suggests that those authors are not using the right strategies. And the whole goal of what we try to communicate in our workshops is not information, it is strategies. Why? Because strategies can be adaptable. Strategies is a practical way to use that information, and we feel that is what authors need. So let's now share the strategy to write an impactful title. As I mentioned, a title needs to emphasize what you've accomplished. That means there are 3 important things that you need to include. First, it needs to include what you're investigating. That's what readers want to know. What is the variable, the condition, maybe the strategy or intervention that's under investigation? Second, they want to know what you're measuring. What is the key outcome that you're hoping to evaluate in this study? And third, from where are these measurements taken from? What is the sample? It could be materials, sites, in life science research, maybe animals, tissues, human participants. Regardless, this is the information readers want. Let's look at an example. Effects of gelatin-based biogels for soft robots and electronics. Now, in this title, 2 of the 3 key factors are included. One of them is missing. So now we're going to ask you, look at this title, what do you think is missing from the title? The variable, what they're investigating, the outcome, what they're measuring, or the sample from where those measurements are taken from? Kara, could I please ask you to launch the poll for us?
Great, thanks so much, Jeff. So that poll should have launched on your screen now. Please use the buttons to vote, and then we will share the results. If you are having any trouble voting in the poll, please try and coming out of full screen view on GoToWebinar, and that should allow you to vote. I see we're getting a lot of votes in now. So I'll just leave the poll open for a few more moments to gather those final votes, and then I will close it and share the results. Okay, sharing the results now. So we had quite a spread here. We had 43% of people thought the outcome was missing, and 39% of people thought that the sample was missing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kara. Now, I do understand if you're not in material science, you may not really be very familiar to understand what's missing. However, I do agree with the majority. The majority said the outcome was missing, and they are exactly correct. In this case, they mentioned effects. What type of effects are being measured? The biogels is what they're investigating. They're trying to look for applications with soft robots and electronics. That's the sample. But the outcomes is not clear. For this type of title, readers would have to click on the title and read the abstract to get that information. That is not being an effective communicator. So let's look more closely at this study, really dissecting what are those 3 factors. The variable, again, were the biogels. They were measuring 2 different outcomes. One was resilience, and second was whether or not these biogels were degradable. And third, the sample, whether it wanted the applications related to soft robots and electronics. So the outcome was missing from the previous one. So when you do define these 3 key factors, the strategy now is to simply combine these 3 factors to write an effective title. And that is the published title of this paper, Resilient Yet Entirely Degradable Gelatin-Based Biogels for Soft Robots and Electronics. So we have the outcomes, resilience and it being degradable, describing the variable that was being investigated for this specific sample, soft robots and electronics. All the information that a reader wants in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words. Short, to the point, and emphasizing the key achievements of the study. This is how you write an impactful title. So with that, that does bring us to the end of our taster session about how to write an impactful title.